You today about the reliability and the unreliability of the standardized field sobriety tests. Chemical tests have issues as well. There are multiple scientific issues that come up when attacking a chemical test, whether it is a blood draw that is sent to a forensics lab to be evaluated, or whether it is a hospital blood test or a breath test that is performed on the Draeger breath test device here in the state of Alabama. However, non-chemical tests have many more unreliable aspects to them. There's no question, anyone that you ask, anyone that you observe, alcohol, when you have elevated levels, meaning someone has had quite a bit to drink, there is no question that it causes mental and physical impairment. That is a given. It's something that everyone would accept as being true. Also, at those high levels, no one would argue that it does not affect the ability to safely operate a motor vehicle. However, what we need to look at is whether a non-chemical test, which is those tests that are done on the side of the road, in order to determine whether there is probable cause to make an arrest decision and haul someone to jail. It's very important to understand what it means to be arrested. If someone has had alcohol to drink and they smell like alcohol, if the standard in our state, in this country, is that if someone smells like alcohol and they are run through the field sobriety test and ultimately arrested and charged with DUI, the public needs to be aware of that. And the limit needs to be adjusted to reflect that. Because an arrest for DUI, an arrest for anything, is very serious because you are fingerprinted, you're added to the databases, you can be scorned within the community. Now that people are posting arrests online, mugshots online, there's also newspaper circulation that indicates arrests. So an arrest is more of a issue now than it has been in the past, and will continue to be in the future. And the reason is the media and social media and the internet is a very powerful tool, but can also be very detrimental, especially if someone is wrongly arrested and they have a mugshot that's taken. That will usually end up on the internet. There is no study out there, and there's no one that would argue that a non-chemical test for determining impairment is more reliable than a chemical test. Everyone would agree that a chemical test, although it does have its issues, is much more reliable than a non-chemical test. Non-chemical tests have just issues that come up time and time again that are unique to non-chemical tests, and ultimately we feel like makes many of these tests wholly unreliable, or at least marginally unreliable at best. Some of these issues that come up when you're dealing with field sobriety tests, non-chemical tests, the lack of scientific data which supports the reliability of the test, the studies that were done, and there's been much written about this, whenever the blood alcohol level was changed from 0.10 down to 0.08, the manuals that were put out by NHTSA that trained the officers, instead of going back and revalidating the data and looking at the tests again, NHTSA just simply went in and changed the blood alcohol content in these manuals from 0.10 to 0.08 without any retesting, without any validation that those numbers would in fact indicate the same as 0.10. So there's a lot of lack of scientific data out there. There's also an inherent variability within these tests, whether it's from one test to the next with a certain subject, or whether it is one subject performing one way and another subject performing a completely different way on the same test at the same blood alcohol content. So there's a lot of variation between subjects, which would be obviously someone who is being looked at to be charged with DUI or who's out on the side of the road after having been pulled over. There's also an issue that comes up, which is the baseline performance levels which come up with people. The officer who more than likely has never met the defendant on the side, other than on the side of the road in the last few minutes, that officer has no baseline to know exactly how this subject would have performed on these tests had they been 100% sober. And so it's difficult to know on the side of the road whenever they're performing the test whether the subject is impaired or not. And it's just an inherent problem within the test. There's also explanations that are medical in nature, mostly. If someone's had recent surgery, if they have inner ear problems, if they have balance problems, those are all issues that come up that could explain poor performance on these tests. Also, the design of all of these studies themselves could definitely cause issues with the evaluation of the tests and the scoring of the tests and the instructions that are given to someone on the side of the road. The studies that were done in a manner that we feel like were out there simply to get the result that was desired at the end of the study. In other words, they knew what result they wanted to get, and they designed the study and modified it over time in order to get to that result. There's also an issue we feel like with the use of simply using averages as they relate to the scoring of the tests and the development of the field sobriety tests that may not even apply to any particular subject who is subjected to these tests. And also, the main thing, and the one that we talk about and spend the most time on when evaluating these, is the improper administration and evaluation of the tests. There are so many officers out there who are unaware how to properly instruct a defendant, a subject on the side of the road, on how to take these tests, and ultimately they are not well trained enough to evaluate and score the test properly, that it's one of those inherent problems with these tests, and it comes up quite a bit. It is a major issue whenever you have an officer out there who does not understand the test, who does not know how to properly instruct the test, and who does not know how to properly score the test. The issues related to the field sobriety tests and the other non-chemical tests are great, and it is the officer who is out there on the side of the road who has to use his or her judgment, his or her training, and these tests in order to determine whether there's probable cause to make an arrest for driving under the influence. If the tests are not performed in a standardized manner, if they're not instructed properly, if they're not scored properly, our argument is that the test results should be excluded, and any subsequent breath test result, any other information related to these tests should be excluded as well, because the arrest decision of the officer on the side of the road was made using a test that has to be complied with strictly, using the instructions provided and the scoring mechanism provided. And if that was not done, then in our opinion, the arrest should not have been made, and because it was made, it is an invalid, illegal, and improper warrantless arrest, and the defendant should be entitled to walk because of the faulty arrest process utilized through the officer on the scene who went through and instructed and ultimately scored these tests. My name's Joseph Kreps. I'm a DUI defense attorney in Alabama. If you've been charged with DUI in the state of Alabama, we want to talk to you. All you have to do to speak to us is call our office to begin the conversation. You can reach us at 866-348-2889. You can also reach us at our website, www.alabama-DUI-attorney.com. Thank you very much.